The auction of despair, the rain was cold. It fell hard on the metal roofs of the alien slave market, making the whole place sound like drums of war. The air smelled of oil, wet dust, and fear. Chains clinked as guards dragged new goods onto the platform. The crowd pressed closer, eager to see pain and weakness. On the stage, a thin alien woman stood with her hands bound. Her clothes were torn, and her skin carried the marks of long travel and hunger. In her arms, she held a small child, no older than for cycles. The boy's eyes were big, glowing faintly like soft amber stones. He was quiet, but his tiny fingers clung to his mother's neck, like he knew that letting go would mean losing her forever. The auctioneer, a fat alien with gray scales and a sharp tongue, raised his voice so the whole market could hear. Next, the rarest catch of the day, a mother from the Orion fringes. He smiled in a way that was not friendly. Strong enough to work, still young, and with a child to sweeten the deal. You know what that means, obedience. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Some bidders shouted numbers. Others asked questions about her health, her skills, her ability to work long hours without rest. No one cared about the child, except as a tool to keep her in line. The mother lowered her head, holding the boy closer. She had come here on purpose. She had sold herself, hoping the credits would go to her village, hoping someone would feed her child. But now, standing on the platform, the noise and the stares felt like knives in her skin. She wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. Her people had told her stories about humans. Most were bad. Humans were rare in these parts, but when they came, they bought things, ships, weapons, and sometimes people. No one ever said they were kind. The bidding began. Voices rose. Numbers jumped higher. The mother's heart pounded. Every voice sounded like a prison door closing, and then a new voice spoke. It was deep, calm, and carried across the crowd without shouting. 20,000. The market froze. Even the auctioneer blinked. That was too much for one alien woman and a child. Heads turned, searching for the voice. A tall figure stepped out from the back of the crowd. His coat was long and dark, heavy. With rain, his face was shadowed by the hood, but when he lowered it, the crowd saw pale human skin and sharp eyes, the color of steel. A whisper passed through the crowd. A human? The auctioneer's smile returned, wider now. Ah, human. You pay well? Yes. But 20,000. Surely you don't, 40, the man said, cutting him off. Gasps spread. No one dared to outbid that. The auctioneer's greed swallowed any questions he might have had. Sold to the human. The chains were removed, but the guards pushed the woman forward roughly. She stumbled, still holding her child tight. She dared to look up at her buyer. His face was unreadable. No smile, no kindness, but also no cruelty. Just calm. He turned and began walking away without a word. She followed because there was nowhere else to go. The rain outside the market was colder. The human walked ahead with long, sure steps. He didn't look back to see if she was keeping up. Her child coughed against her shoulder. Finally, she spoke, her voice small. Why? Why did you buy us? The human didn't answer right away. He stopped at a transport vehicle, an old armored craft that looked like it had seen many battles. He opened the back door and gestured for her to get inside. She hesitated. She had heard of humans who bought slaves to use them for cruel work, or worse. Was that his plan? Her heart raced. But her son's stomach growled. And the rain was soaking through his thin clothes. She stepped into the craft. Inside. It was warm and surprisingly clean. A small heater hummed softly. On the seat, there was a blanket, not for him, but for her and the boy. She wrapped it around them, unsure if this was kindness or a trap. The human climbed into the front seat and started the engine. The craft rose into the air with a low hum. City lights passed below as they moved away from the market. The mother kept watching him, trying to read his face. He didn't glance at her. His eyes stayed on the dark road ahead. The child, exhausted, fell asleep in her arms. After what felt like hours, the craft landed in a quiet place outside the city. The human stepped out and opened the door for her. "Come," he said simply. She followed him into a small building made of metal and stone. The air smelled faintly of herbs and something cooking. He pointed toward a table where a bowl of food waited for the boy. Her eyes widened. Real food, fresh, hot, and safe. She set the child down and helped him eat. The boy's face lit up with joy, and for the first time in days, he smiled. The human watched silently, leaning against the wall. His face was still hard to read. The mother wanted to thank him, but her fear held her tongue. Why had he bought her for so much? Why was he feeding her child without asking for anything in return? And then she noticed in the back of the room, a heavy door was locked tight. Strange lights flickered from the edges. Something about it made her skin crawl. She looked back. At the human, he was still watching her. This time, his eyes seemed sharper. "Eat," he said. "You'll need your strength." His voice was calm, but she felt the weight behind it. Somewhere deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. The human silence the night was still. No rain, no wind, only the faint hum of strange machines hidden somewhere in the walls. The alien mother lay on the small bed the human had given her. The blanket was thick, warmer than anything she'd touched in years. Her child slept curled against her chest, his tiny breath soft against her skin. But she could not sleep. Her mind spun with questions. Who was this human I pay so much for? Her, and then, do nothing. No orders, no chains, no threats. He had simply said, "Eat, rest," and then left the room. It didn't make sense. She heard movement outside the door. Quiet footsteps, heavy, deliberate. She rose silently, careful not to wake her child, and peeked into the hallway. The human walked past, his long coat brushing against the wall. He didn't see her. His steps led to the locked door at the far end of the hall, the one she had noticed before. Her breath caught. The strange lights flickered again from under the door, brighter now. The human placed his palm on the panel. A low beep. The door slid open just enough for him to slip inside. And then, she heard it, not voices, not machines, but a deep, low growl, like something alive, something large. The door shut, sealing the sound away. She stayed frozen in the hallway. Every instinct told her to run back to her room, to hide, but another part of her, the part that had survived, all these years, told her she needed to know what was behind that door. Still, she returned to her bed. She couldn't risk the child. She lay down, pretending to sleep, but her ears strained for any noise. Hours passed. Then she heard the door open again. The human's footsteps returned. She risked a glance. He walked slowly now, as if heavy with thought. In one hand, he carried a small cloth bag. It dripped dark liquid onto the floor. Blood. The next morning, the smell of food filled the air. She woke to find a tray outside her door. Bread, fruit, a small jug of clean water. Enough for her and the child. She stepped into the hall, half expecting to see him waiting. But the house was quiet. She found him in the main room, sitting at a table with a data pad. His eyes flicked up briefly as she entered. "Sit," he said simply. She obeyed. The silence between them felt heavier than any chain she had ever worn. Finally, she spoke. "You could have bought anyone. Why me?" Didn't look at her. "You had a child?" Her heart skipped. To control me." "No," he said, finally meeting her eyes. "To save you." She stared, confused. Why he didn't answer? Instead, he pushed a small plate of food toward her. Eat. The days passed in the same strange rhythm. He gave them food. He never raised his voice, never touched her without permission. He asked no questions about her past, and he offered no information about his own. At night, she would hear him moving toward the locked door, always at the same time, always alone. The lights would flicker, the strange sound would rise, and then all would go quiet again. Her child began to trust him. The boy would follow the human around the house, laughing when the man gave him small pieces of fruit or showed him how to tap buttons on the datapad. But the mother could not relax. One evening, as they ate, she asked, "What is behind that door?" The human's hand paused over his drink. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, she thought she saw something dangerous there. "You don't want to know," he said quietly. "But my child goes near it sometimes," she insisted. "I need to know if it's safe." His voice hardened. "Keep him away from it. Promise me." She hesitated. "I promise." That night, she woke to the sound of her child's voice. "Mama." "There's something in the hallway." She sat up quickly. The boy pointed toward the door. She crept to it and cracked it open just enough to look. The hallway was empty. But then, a shadow moved near the far wall. It was tall, hunched, and its shape was wrong. Too many joints, too many curves. It stopped at the locked door. The panel flashed and the door slid open. The shadow slipped inside without a sound, and standing in the dark, watching it, was the human. The next morning, she wanted to ask him what she had seen. But when she entered the kitchen, the human looked at her first. His gaze was sharper, like he already knew her thoughts. "You didn't sleep," he said. She shook her head. "You saw something," he continued. She swallowed hard. "Yes." He leaned back in his chair. "Then you know you should trust me when I tell you to stay away." Her voice trembled. "What is it?" His reply was calm, almost too calm. "Not everything dangerous is your enemy. Sometimes it's your protector." She didn't know if that was a warning or a comfort, but she knew one thing. The human was hiding something far bigger than her life, and soon it would step out from behind that door. Secrets behind the locked door. The day passed in uneasy quiet. The alien mother kept her promise. She kept her child away from the far hallway. But every time she walked past it, the door seemed to watch her. It was strange to think of a door watching, but that's how it felt. The light strip above it pulsed sometimes, almost like a heartbeat. The air around it was cooler, her child noticed. "To Mama," he whispered. "The door hums when the man goes near it." She didn't answer. She had learned that some questions only brought trouble. That night, she woke again. 2 footsteps this time. But to silence. It was the kind of silence that meant something was wrong. She checked the bed. Her child was gone. Her heart leaped into her throat. She rushed into the hallway, bare feet silent on the cold floor. At the far end, her child stood before the locked door. His small hand was pressed against the panel, and the panel was glowing. "Stop," she cried, running forward. The boy jumped back as the door hissed and slid open. Light flooded out. Strange, shifting colors like liquid fire and deep ocean mixed together. And in the middle of that light stood something. It was tall, its back bent slightly, its skin a deep silver that caught the light and made it seem alive. Its head was shaped like a blade, long and smooth, with 2 small eyes that glowed faintly. Blue Dot, the creature made no sound. It simply looked at her, then at the boy. Her instincts screamed to grab her child and run, but her legs felt rooted. A voice came from behind her, calm, low, human. "Step away from the door." She turned. The human stood there, coat unbuttoned, one hand resting near the weapon at his belt. The creature's eyes flicked to him. Then, slowly, it stepped back into the room beyond the door. The human walked forward and pressed his palm to the panel. The door slid shut, sealing the light away. He looked at her, his face unreadable. "You broke your promise." Her voice shook. "My son-he curiosity is dangerous here," he said. "Very dangerous." She clutched her child, feeling his small heart race against hers. "What is it?" she demanded. "Is it dangerous to him?" The human didn't answer right. "Away." He looked at the door for a long moment. Finally, he said, "It would kill for him." "That's the danger." She blinked. "For him?" He nodded once. "And for you?" "That's why I keep it locked. Not to protect me, but to protect everything." Else, the next day, she watched him more closely. He moved with quiet purpose, fixing small things in the house, checking weapons, studying his datapad. But every few hours, he would glance toward the far hallway like a man who knew trouble. Would come from there one day, her child kept asking about the silver one. The mother tried to hush him, but she could see the questions burning in his young mind. That evening, as they ate, she decided to push him again. "You said it would kill for us," she began. Why? The human put down his cup. "Of course. It owes me, and I owe it." She frowned. "It's a friend." He almost smiled. "Something like that, but not in the way you think. It's not human. It doesn't understand kindness like we do. It understands debt, blood debt." Later that night, the rain returned. Heavy drops pounded the roof, and the hum of the heater filled the room. She lay in bed, trying to sleep, when she heard something new. Not footsteps, not growls, but low, rhythmic thumping. She slipped into the hallway. The sound came from the other side of the locked door. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat. She took a step, closer, and froze. The panel light turned red. From behind the door came a single sound. Not a growl this time, but a whisper. Her name, her real name. The one she had never told the human. Her blood went cold. She stumbled back, nearly tripping over her own feet. The door stayed shut, but the whisper came again, softer now. Almost like a lullaby. She grabbed her child and returned to bed, holding him close until the whisper faded. The next morning, she confronted the human. "It knows my name." He didn't look surprised. "It knows more than that." Her voice rose. "What is it? Why is it here?" He looked at her finally, and his voice was firm. "One day, you'll be glad it's here, but not today. Today, you stay away from it, both of you." The mother didn't reply, but in her mind, she knew one thing. She couldn't just stay away. Not anymore. Whatever was behind that door wasn't just some monster. It had spoken to her. It had known her. And that meant the human was keeping more than one secret. It meant the human wasn't just her buyer. He was part of something much, much bigger. And if the creature was protecting them, then someone, somewhere, must be coming to harm them. The danger outside the morning sky was a dull gray, heavy with clouds that looked ready to break. The air smelled strange, sharp, metallic, like the scent before lightning. The alien mother noticed it first. She stepped out of the small house too. Hang wet clothes, and the wind carried something to her ears. A distant rumble, not thunder. Engines, many engines. She froze. Out beyond the hills, tiny black dots moved against the pale horizon. They grew larger with each second. Her heart sank. She had seen those shapes before. Raiders. She rushed inside. The human was already at the table, cleaning a weapon with slow, precise movements. "They're coming," she said quickly, her voice tight. "I know," he replied, without looking up. "You know?" He slid the weapon's parts back into place and locked the magazine. "They've been watching this house for days." waiting until they thought I was relaxed. Her mind raced. You'll give us to them, won't you? That's why you paid so much. You're a traitor. That was when he looked at her, really looked at her. His eyes were cold, but not cruel. If I wanted you gone, you'd already be gone. The rumble outside grew louder. Her child appeared from the back room, rubbing his eyes. Mama? What's that sound? The human crouched to the boy's level. It's trouble, he said plainly. Stay close to your mother. Don't run outside, no matter what you hear. Then he stood, pulling on a heavy coat and strapping another. Weapon across his back. She followed him to the door. You can't fight them. There are too many. His answer was simple. They're not taking you. The first shot came from the hill. A sharp beam of red light sliced through the air, scorching the dirt near the doorway. The mother pulled. Her child behind the table. The human stepped into the open, not flinching as another blast hit the wall beside him. He raised his rifle and returned fire. One of the black shapes in the distance exploded in midair. The raiders shouted in their own guttural language. The rest of them charged forward, their vehicles kicking up clouds of dust. Inside, the mother's hands shook. Every instinct told her to run, but there was nowhere to go. She peeked through the doorway just in time to see the human drop to more raiders with perfect shots, never wasting a single movement. He moved like someone who had fought 100 battles before, fast but never frantic, calm but dangerous. Still, more raiders came. Too many. She heard a sound behind her. A low, deep vibration from the far hallway. The locked door. The panel light flashed red, then green. The door slid open, and silver light spilled into the hallway. The creature stepped out, its long, blade-shaped head tilted toward her, then toward the doorway where the human fought. Without a sound, it moved past her, not walking, but gliding. Its limbs shifting in ways that made her eyes ache to follow. The human didn't look surprised when it peered beside him. The raiders did. The creature moved faster than her eyes could track. One moment, it was still. The next, it was among the raiders, tearing weapons from their hands, shattering armor like paper. Its glowing blue eyes flashed with each strike. The mother held her child close, both of them frozen as they watched death sweep through the enemy ranks. The human kept firing, working in perfect rhythm with the creature, like they had done this 1,000 times before. In minutes, the raiders were scattered, some dead, others fleeing into the hills. The battle was over. Silence returned, broken only by the hiss of the creature's slow breathing. It turned to look at the human, then at the mother. For a heartbeat, she thought it would speak again, but instead stepped back into the hallway, disappearing behind the sliding door without a sound. The human lowered his weapon and looked at her. You see now why I keep it here. She swallowed hard. It fights for you. It fights for whoever I tell it to, he said. And right now, that's you and your boy. She didn't know what to say. The ground outside was littered with the wreckage of the raiders' machines. The smell of smoke filled the air. Her child tugged at her sleeve. Mama, the silver one saved us. She knelt and hugged him tight. Yes, she whispered. It did. The human stepped past them, scanning the horizon. This won't be the last time they come, he said. And next time, there will be more. The mother's fear was replaced with something else. A quiet understanding. She wasn't here by accident. The human had chosen her. And now she was part of something far more dangerous than she had imagined. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the creature, moving through the raiders like a storm. But she also remembered the way it had stepped between her and the danger, not by accident, but by choice. Whatever it wasn't just a weapon, and the human wasn't just her rescuer. He was a man preparing for a war, and now so was She dot the battle, and the truthless smell of smoke still hung over the house the next morning. Outside, the hills were black with scorched earth. Raider machines lay in twisted heaps, their metal frames hissing in the cool air. The alien mother stood by the doorway, holding her child, watching the human move among the wreckage. He wasn't looking for loot. He was searching for something else. She called out, "They're gone. Why are you still out there?" "They'll be back," he said without looking at her. "I need to know who sent them this time." Tightened. This time, he finally turned toward her. "Raiders don't just wander here. Someone told them where to find us." The way he said it sent a strange feeling through her. She wasn't sure if it meant safety, or that she was now tied to whatever war he was fighting. That night, the wind carried new sounds. A slow rumble of raider engines. This was sharper, heavier. Dropships. The human was already moving before she could speak. He strapped on his armor, checked his rifle, and handed her a small, palm-sized device. "If this turns red," he said, "you run to the hills. Don't wait for me. Don't wait for the door to open." Her eyes darted toward the far hallway, and the creature. He paused. "If the door opens without me telling it to, run faster." The first beam of light tore through the roof. The air filled with the hiss of burning metal and the crack of weapons fire. The human moved toward the fight without hesitation. The mother ducked low, holding her child. The device in her hand stayed green. For now, through the doorway, she saw shapes dropping from the sky. Armored soldiers far better equipped than raiders. They moved with military precision, forming lines, advancing fast. The human fired, dropping the first wave, but more kept coming. And then it happened. The locked door's panel turned green. Slowly, it slid open. The creature stepped out, but it wasn't alone. Behind it, another figure emerged, smaller, leaner. Its skin was a deep bronze, its head rounded instead of bladed. The two moved side by side, silent but deadly. The soldiers faltered. Even with their armor, they weren't ready for what came next. The silver creature leaped forward, tearing through the enemy's front line. The bronze one followed, moving in tight circles, striking from the sides, cutting them down before they could aim. The human worked with them like they were parts of the same mind. His shots came only when they were needed, precise and deadly, covering their movement. The mother watched in shock. This wasn't chaos. It was strategy. They weren't just fighting together. They were trained together. She crawled closer to the hallway, keeping her child behind her. When the bronze creature passed by, it glanced at her, and she swore she saw recognition in its eyes. The battle raged on. The soldiers broke formation, retreating toward their dropships. The human advance, not letting them regroup. The creatures moved like shadows beside him, cutting down anyone who tried to cover the retreat. Minutes later, the dropships roared into the sky, leaving behind only silence and the stink of burned metal. The human walked back slowly, his weapon lowered. The creatures followed. The silver one stopped in front of the mother, lowering its head. She expected a growl or a whisper like before, but instead, it extended one arm toward her child. Her son, without fear, reached out and touched the cold silver surface. The creature made a sound, a low vibrating hum that seemed almost gentle. The human spoke then, his voice quieter. "It likes him." She looked up sharply. "What is it?" He hesitated. "Then, they're not mine. I didn't make them. I freed them." She frowned. "From where?" "From the same people who would have taken you today," he said. "The people who think lives can be bought, sold, or bred for war." The bronze one tilted its head at her, as if listening. The human continued. "I used to be like them. I fought for the highest bidder. I thought freedom was just a word. Then I saw what they were doing to children, to mothers. Two things like these. He gestured toward the creatures. I stopped fighting for them. I started fighting against them, and I've been running ever since. The mother held her child closer. And you bought me because... His eyes met hers. Because I knew they'd come for you next, and I wasn't going to let that happen. Silence hung between them. Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying the scent of rain. The silver creature stepped back toward the hallway. The bronze one followed, but not before giving the boy one last look, almost protective. Then the door slid shut behind them. The human turned toward the wreckage outside. They'll send more, stronger ones. Next time, it won't just be here. They attack. The mother didn't ask what he meant. She understood now. She wasn't just living in his house. She was standing in the middle of a war, and the strange part was, for the first time in years, she didn't feel helpless. Because now she knew the truth. The human hadn't bought her to own her. He had bought her to keep her. And if the fight came again, she would stand with him. A choice of freedom. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of rain and smoke. The hills outside the humans' home were littered with blackened metal and the wrecks of machines that would never move again. Inside. The mother sat at the small table with her child, wrapping his small fingers in clean bandages. He had scraped his hands in the chaos of the battle, but now he was calm. Watching her with tired eyes, the human entered, carrying a small, heavy pouch. He set it on the table between them. The metal coins inside clinked softly. "What is this?" she asked. "Enough to get you to the nearest free city," he said. "And enough to start over there." Her chest tightened. "You want me to leave?" He shook his head. "I'm giving you a choice. You can go. You'll be safe as anyone can be. You'll have no chains, no masters, no war." She searched his face. It was the same unreadable mask he always wore, but his voice carried something softer this time. "And if I stay?" she asked. "Then you stay in the fight," he said. "You've seen what's coming. I can't promise you safety, Atan. Promise your boy won't be in danger again, but I can promise you won't be alone." Her child looked between them, sensing the weight in the air. "Mama, I don't want to go without him," the boy said quietly. Her heart twisted. She thought of the free city of clean streets, markets full of food, walls high enough to keep most trouble away. She could live quietly there, forget this man and his strange locked door. But she also thought of the raiders, of the soldiers who had come from the sky, of the way the silver and bronze creatures had fought, not just for the human, but for her and her child. Freedom was not the same as safety, and safety was not the same as living. "Why did you save us?" she asked him. "Not just by us, save us." The human leaned against the wall. "Because once a stranger saved me. Didn't know me. But they pulled me out of a place I didn't think I'd escape. And I decided that day that if I could do the same for someone else, I would. And you've been doing it ever since," she said. He nodded once. "I've bought people who never spoke to me again. I've fought for people who ran the first chance they got. But it doesn't matter. If they're free, it's worth it." The boy's small hand slid into hers. "Mama," he whispered, "the silver one. It likes us." She almost laughed, but there was truth in his voice. The way the creature had stepped in front of them, the way it had lowered its head to the boy, it wasn't just a weapon. It chose to protect. And she realized the human had done the same thing. She stood slowly, pushing the pouch of coins back toward him. "I'm not going to the free city," she said. His eyes narrowed slightly. "You're sure?" "I've run enough," she said. "Every time I've run, they've found me again. At least here, we fight back." A faint, almost invisible smile touched his lips. "Then you stay as an equal, not as a slave. She raised her chin. I was never your slave. Good, he said. That's why I picked you. The days that followed were different. The human began teaching her things how to check. The perimeter sensors how to read enemy signals on his datapad. How to load and clean a rifle. He didn't treat her like someone to be protected and hidden away. He treated her like someone who could stand beside him. The boy followed them everywhere, learning in his own way. Sometimes the silver creature would appear silently in the hallway, watching as if judging whether they were ready. The bronze one came less often, but when it did, it would crouch near the boy, letting him touch the strange armor-like plates along its limbs. One evening, as the sun dipped low, the human stood with her outside, looking toward the hills. They'll come again, he said, but we'll be ready next time. She nodded. And if they send more, then we can fight. His eyes were steady. Then we fight anyway. Her chest felt lighter than it had in years. Fear was still there, it would always be there, but now it lived beside something stronger. She had made her choice. Not the safe one, not the easy one, but the right one. Later that night, as she was putting her son to bed, she heard a sound. From the far hallway, the locked door was open just a crack. A pale blue light spilled into the dark. The silver creature stood there, watching her. Slowly, it lifted one arm and touched the wall beside the door. The same gesture her boy often made when saying goodnight. Then it stepped back inside, and the door sealed shut. For the first time, she didn't feel afraid of it. For the first time, she felt part of its pack, the new family, the house no longer felt like a cage. The alien mother moved through it without fear now. Her child trailing behind her, sometimes laughing, sometimes asking endless questions about the strange machines the human kept. Even the hallway, with the locked door, didn't chill her like before. She knew what waited behind it, and she no longer saw it as a threat. In the evenings, the human would bring her outside to the edge of the hills. Together, they would scan the horizon, checking sensors and plotting routes. She had learned the quiet rhythm of preparation, oiling weapons, storing rations, memorizing escape paths. It wasn't the life she once dreamed of, but it was life, real life. The silver creature had begun appearing more often. It no longer kept its distance. Sometimes she'd catch it in the kitchen doorway, just watching. Her son would wave at it, and it would respond with a slow tilt of its head, as if trying to mimic the human's nod. The bronze one came rarely, but when it did, it always sought out the boy. The two would sit in silence, the creature letting him touch the smooth plates along its arm. It was a strange friendship, wordless, but real. The human never explained where they went when the door closed. And she stopped asking. One morning, they set out together. The human, the mother, and the child, walking the ridge above the valley. The air was clear, the sky a deep blue. But as they reached the highest point, the human stopped abruptly. His hand went to the small device on his belt. It beeped once, sharp, urgent. They've crossed the outer line, he said. She tensed. Raiders. No, he said, scanning the horizon. Something worse. The sound came before the shapes appeared, a low mechanical roar that vibrated in the bones. Then, far off, dark craft broke through the clouds. They flew in tight formation, their metal hulls glinting in the sun. The human's voice was calm. Go back to the house, get the boy inside. But she didn't move. And you? He glanced at her, a faint smirk on his lips. I'll call our friends. Back at the house, the locked door was already opening. The silver creature stepped out, its eyes brighter than she had ever seen. Behind it came the bronze, moving with a tense, coiled energy. The boy ran to them without fear. The silver one bent low, letting him touch its arm. The bronze one placed itself between the child and the door. as if claiming a guard's position. The human entered last, strapping on heavier armor than before. He checked his rifle, then looked at her. "This is your fight too. Now, you ready?" She swallowed, then nodded. "I am." The attack came fast. The black craft dropped soldiers in dark armor, their weapons glowing with dangerous light. These weren't scavengers or bounty hunters. They were professionals, but so were her companions. The silver and bronze creatures moved like lightning, cutting through enemy lines before they could fully form. The human fought alongside them, his shots sharp and decisive, forcing the attackers into defensive positions. The mother took cover, firing at any soldier who tried to flank them. Her hands no longer shook. Every shot was aimed to protect her boy. The battle raged across the hills. Smoke rose into the air, and the ground trembled under the weight of the enemy machines. Then, over the coms, a cold, unfamiliar voice echoed. "Return the assets, human, and we may let you live." The human didn't answer. Instead, he reloaded and fired straight into the lead machine. Blowing it apart in a burst of flame, the voice came again, harsher now. "Then you will die with them." The enemy pushed harder. For a moment, it looked like they might break through until the silver creature let out a sound that shook the air. A deep, resonating roar. From behind the hills, shadows began to move. More figures stepped into view. Not human, not like the silver and bronze, but each carrying the same strange, alien strength. The mother realized what she was seeing. The human hadn't just freed two of them. He had freed many, and now they had come. The counterattack was brutal and fast. The enemy broke ranks under the sudden onslaught, their formation collapsing. Within minutes, the survivors were retreating to their ships, engines screaming as they fled into the clouds. When it was over, the silver creature approached the boy again, lowering itself so he could place his small hands on its head. The bronze one stood beside the mother, its presence oddly reassuring. The human looked over the battlefield, then at her. "They'll keep coming," he said. She nodded. "Then we'll keep stopping them." That night, the house was quiet. The creatures had returned behind the locked door, but it didn't feel like a barrier anymore. It felt like a promise. The mother sat with her boy in the small kitchen, the human across from them. For the first time, there was no distance in his expression. They weren't strangers. They weren't master and slave. They were a family, not by blood, not by law, by choice. And in this galaxy, where lives were bought and sold, that made them stronger than anything else.